That is Timber there by Pitbull featuring Keisha here in Shmu FM 99.8 FM. Right, let's kick off with 300 Rise of an Empire.
And
Now,
if you want my kind of full thoughts on this, you can go to Movie Ticket Extra and have a look at the blog review I wrote.
Indeed. Now, I went to see this one on opening night, and there weren't as many people as I expected to be there.
Well, I saw the film at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday, which is kind of, and the audience there was kind of fairly standard.
Yeah.
I had to watch the first 300 before I went and saw this one, and honestly, 7 years after, I think it's 7 years roughly. As someone looking at it for the first time, I gave a kind of mini review in my blog review of this film, but it was kind of cheesy, entertaining, and stylized. But I don't quite understand why it's considered some sort of nuts and bolts action masterpiece.
I really liked it, but I think I liked it because of it's so stylized, and it's a really nice style to get caught up in.
And I admit that, and that is the great benefit of these kind of films. But it's kind of, yes, the dialogue is terrible, but in the first film, I got the sense that the actors knew it was terrible and had fun with it, which, so I'd give it 6 out of 10. A fairly generous 6 out of 10. Like I said, it was quite entertaining in a lot of places, but it's not anything I'd be clamoring to watch again. So I went into this one with some very, very low expectations because I wasn't huge on the first one. And I have to say, for the most part, they were met, although this film does have plenty of good and does have one or two elements that are actually really good and pretty interesting. The weird thing, the best thing about it, weirdly enough, is honestly the story structure. And I haven't seen anything structured in quite this way before, which is weird when you think about the content of the film and saying the major plus of it is the story structure. But I've never seen anything like it before. It's a prequel, a companion story, and a sequel, all at the same time. And the basic plot is that it was, I think, originally technically supposed to be about Xerxes, which is one of the best elements of the first film. He kind of does get a backstory, but it's kind of not as much as you'd expect, considering...
I think it was all that it needed, though. I didn't think it... I thought any more we'd kind of prey on the supernatural.
You got the explanation as to why he ended up with a jewellery store on his face.
Yes, this is true.
And that's probably all you needed. Mainly Eva Green is the kind of commander of the Persian Sea Force, fighting off this guy who isn't Gerard Butler and his army of Spartans. Now, I have to say the other major benefit of the film is Eva Green. She was I said this in my blog review, but I found it very entertaining just to watch her. There's no scenery that hasn't been chewed by the end of the film. I thought she was very, very entertaining as a kind of the dictionary definition of scenery chewing villain.
Yeah.
And some of the sea battles are quite impressive, but the film, I think, has many, many problems. One of the main ones being, there was a certain level of brutality to the original's level of stylized violence. In this one, I don't know what you felt, but for me it just felt like an effects artist was just pressing a button and it's like CGI blood, and then suddenly fountains of blood would come pouring out of injuries. The lead guy who played Themistocles is awful. He's just not as charismatic as Gerard Butler.
I think he was trying to do the whole, I'm going to stand here and be quiet and be the strong and silent type, and it just didn't work.
And in general, the film, I didn't think, apart from Eva Green, I don't know what you thought, but I didn't get the sense the film had the kind of an idea of the sense of its ridiculousness. Like the first one had. So I don't know if you liked it more than me, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. If you're a die-hard fan, you'll probably still enjoy it. But it had good elements, but overall, as I say, I didn't have high expectations, but because I wasn't crazy in love with the first one, but still.
You see, I am one of the die-hard fans of the first one. I love it, and it is a film I could watch over and over again, because I just love the period of time. I think it's a really cool, and I love the stylizedness.
And that is totally understandable.
Yeah, and I went in to watch this one with the idea of, I'm not sure what this is going to be like. So like you, I went in with quite low expectations, or middling expectations. I wasn't expecting it to be great, but I wasn't expecting it to be terrible either. I felt it was a lot slower.
Yeah.
At no point, like, in the first film, it is pause, fight, pause, fight, pause, fight, pause, fight, and the pauses are 2 minutes to set up
there's like a scene of dialogue and then a fight.
Yeah, and that scene of dialogue is only to set up the hatred for the Persians. In this film, there's small bit of fighting, half an hour of talking,
and the
small bit of fighting, half an hour of talking, 10 minutes of fighting, end. And that was kind of what this film became for me. I should also say that Lena Headey comes back, but is given nothing to do. Yeah. The problem with this film, I think, is that 300 was based on the Spartans, and you grew attached to them as a group of people. You wanted them to win, and they never did. This film moves completely away from that already well-based group of people who you want to see succeed. This film moves it away from them, moves the focus away, and it never gives you a clear group of people to be like, this is who you're supposed to be rooting for.
I think you are meant to be rooting for Themistocles Spartans, but Themistocles himself is so boring and bland.
You never want them to win. You never want that Greek army to win. And at no point does it... by the end of the film, I was like, right, the Spartans are coming. I know they're coming because this film is a really two-dimensional thing. I know they're going to come and save the day. Just hurry up and let them come. And then let's have the big battle with the Spartans, kicking everyone and just ruling. And then let's have it over with. And they arrive and nothing happens. And it's such an anti-climax, I think, that it really, really disappointed me. Now, I completely understand where you're going with the whole Eva Green scenery biting and just...
scenery chewing.
Yeah. I just couldn't get... Every time I saw her, I thought, she's not the right person for this role. I couldn't get by it. I don't know whether it was the accent or whether it was...
I just enjoyed it because she was so over the top.
Yeah.
But I can totally understand.
I just don't know.
Her performance wasn't good.
No. It's exactly the same with Sullivan Stapleton, who plays Themistocles. And it's like, all right, what exactly is going on here? And it's like, wait a minute, you're not Australian, you're playing a Greek. What is going on? I could take Gerard Butler being a little bit Scottish, because that was a bit quaint.
Yeah, but Gerard Butler had the dialogue down so that he knew this dialogue was terrible.
Yes, but Sullivan Stapleton came, all right, my name's Themistocles. Good day. how you all doing? All right, we're going to go and kill some Persians. All right, yeah, that's fine. Okay, come on then. And I do not know what was going on. It just did my head in all the way through. I disliked this. I didn't dislike this film. I was very disappointed with this film. But the only thing that shines a little bit of light is the fact that 300 ended with the Spartans dying, and then the post-credit scene was Dilios leading the battle charge against the main Persian army.
Yeah.
With all the Greeks. This film starts with the main action sequence starts just after 300 has finished and goes on to where the Spartans come back into the fold, into the rest of the Greek army. The only positive thing I saw about the ending of this film was that it leads beautifully onto another film, which circles round this massive battle. That's what I wanted this film to be. That's what this film didn't deliver. I think this film could have been sunk down into a 5-minute prologue, and maybe 5-minute prologue, and then the Xerxes bit where he emerges into the how he become the gold encrusted god king, with another 5 minutes, and then you could have had an hour and 20 minutes of Spartans and Greeks beating each other silly against Persians.
Because that's what you want.
That's what you want, and that's why this film didn't work. This film tried to be too smart, too clever, and that's why I think it failed. The only other good point in this film was that once again we got to hear that lovely Spartan war cry. Oh! Yeah. I love that. It's the best part of the whole film, and it happens once.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't wait for the next film because I think it's going to be a lot better if it happens. But I hope it doesn't go after this trend.
It probably will, because this film has made money.
It's got a cult following, this film, I think. This film is kind of a bit like Taken, where everyone knows it's a bit rubbish, but everyone loves it anyway. So I think the next film probably will happen, and I just hope it concentrates on the fighting, because that's the best part.
Yeah.
I would give this film 5 out of 10, I think, but that 5 is very heavily dependent on the fact that it sets up the next film.
Yeah.
Next time, don't hire an Australian, though. I don't want to be hearing this when he's dressed with a loincloth.
He was awful.
He was.
I think next we will talk about Muppets, because we need to do that, what with it being an early review and something I haven't written about for the blog.
Cool. So that will be coming up after the next song. We'll also be speaking about Need for Speed and Non-Stop as well. But coming up right now, here is This Ain't a Scene, It's an Arms Race by Fall Out Boy.